Now, let's analyze what's been working for us. Not a goddamn thing's been working for us. Like this goddamn suit doesn't work for me. And this stinking tie, and this goddamn shirt, it doesn't work for me. You know how to play winning hard-nosed football? You play football like Engineero played football. A guy who gave his life for this football team. He was a 140-pound halfback, and he played like a goddamn wild man. No, like a goddamn rampaging beast. And that's the way you gotta do it. You go out there, you tear their fucking heads off, and you shit down their necks. Let us pray.
GONZO Radio.
Wow, a steadfast refusal to do what I'm pushing buttons.
I heard clicking.
You heard all the clicking.
I heard
right?
a lot of clicking going on over there.
Click. And it was just like, no, not doing it. No, not getting it. Welcome to the GONZO Radio Sports Desk. Just trying to pull together some last minute crap here because I guess Facebook decided that they don't want us to go live this week. So hopefully you're watching here on the GONZO Radio Network. Welcome. Seated across from me, wondering what the hell all the clicking was about, is the MAZZ. Look, now yours works.
Of course.
You
know why Facebook doesn't want us on there this week?
Why?
Well, all the attention we had last week, their servers couldn't handle it.
Yeah, that's what it was. I mean, literally, dozens.
Just put them over the edge. Political stuff, well, the election's over, so people have to put their attention someplace.
Yeah, right. So it's literally dozens of people flooding the YouTube servers, the Facebook servers, and they couldn't handle it.
Listen, they're going to find us eventually.
Eventually. So we've got a lot going on. Now, of course, we are your fantasy football depot. We are your fantasy football insight, in spite of the people that you see over the MAZZ's left shoulder who are frantically jibber-jabbering away. But we got the real info for you.
I think last week I called a DJ Chark explosion.
You're just going to rub that in the whole friggin' show?
Well, I didn't know what you had done after I had called the explosion.
I did the dumbest thing. Okay, first of all, never ask for advice and go, ooh, that sounds good. And then take the advice, and then at the last second, switch it out. Don't do that. Don't do it. Look at that, the wand.
It's so disappointed. But you know what? Like I said to you, obviously.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Pre-show, it's exactly what I said. I said, you know what? I said, we all make mistakes in life. It's not getting knocked down, but it's when we get back up is how we get measured. So I got more for you today. So just make sure you put them in your lineup.
Well, before we get to that, though, there's so much going on in so many other sports that we would be remiss if we didn't cover it, like NBA.
There's a little bit of news out there. The season starts in about a month.
Russell Westbrook wants out of Houston.
Well, Harden does too,
and
potentially.
Yeah, but nobody wants Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, all those scoring outbursts, all the triple doubles. The knock on Westbrook is that winning games and. With his style of play, so aggressive, so physical, motor that doesn't stop. Here's the problem. Still can't shoot the three-point shot. I think he's under like 30%. Doesn't make players around him better. So clearly this is the issue at this point in a career where, you can be a prolific scorer but not a winner. And he's getting older. So his best attribute is his physical one. And as that starts to deteriorate, then what do you have that's left? I mean, he's not reinventing any game style at all. He still can't shoot. Right. So,
well, a team like the New York Knicks wants him because the Knicks need somebody to put asses in seats.
And that would make sense for him. That's probably his best move, is going to New York.
But being a Miami Heat homer, and of course, everybody's speculating that the Heat's just biding their time, waiting for Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Be careful.
That's all we need is another guy with a funny name on the team.
Yeah.
But
whoever makes the jerseys has got to be a saint.
Yeah.
With all the spellings and all the names and all this.
So patient.
That's insane.
Where is this guy from again? Anyway, that don't look French.
You need an engineer to put that the name on the back of a jersey. Yeah.
He's got letters under his armpits.
Spatial relationships come into play there.
In no way, shape, or form has it even crossed my mind to go, ooh, he would look great playing for the Heat. The Heat would love him. Nope. Nobody, not a chance.
No,
not even a thought.
You see, at this point, maybe he was a 1 at some point, but at best, he's a 3 on any team at this point.
Yeah.
And again, you need a 3 player. But you don't need a 3 player with his money and his cap hit.
That's a lot of money.
And clearly, through the sentiment of the rest of the league,
$37 million.
it's a ton of money, dude. And again, there's just not a lot of interest for him right now, other than potentially the Knicks. Because what the Knicks can do, they've got obviously some salary cap space.
Of course.
They can sign him. They can go out and probably get another max player. I'm sure that's on their radar. And they can at least be viable. I mean, he can get you to the playoffs.
Would they be willing to give up their first-round draft choice?
I don't know. I mean, with their organizational decisions over the years and up to this point, it's very difficult to prognosticate what they're going to do. But
anytime anybody brings up the subject of the worst owner in professional sports,
he's up there, dude.
I was like, whoa! You mean who's the second worst owner in professional sports? Because the consensus number one is Dolan.
You can go
consensus number one. I hate the Knicks, and I hate the fact that he's 1A, destroyed that team,
and 1B, and perhaps 2A and 2B. Yeah, right. It's been bad for a long time. But, I mean, this is the landscape of sports. In every sport, you have an owner or two that every year, I mean, as a fan, I feel terrible for those guys.
He's been doing it for more than a decade.
Well, it's been a while. But, again, in every sport, you've got these owners that you're like, wow, these guys must have a ton of money because they can still write the checks. But, you know what? And I'm sure everybody has said this. I certainly have. The NBA is strong, but they're stronger if the Knicks are viable. I mean, certainly. And now with Brooklyn
they're
and
a crown jewel team.
I mean, if the Knicks are viable in the NBA, the fan base, just the ratings itself, I mean, it's better for the NBA, but they've just been
a New York
horrendous
team.
Yeah, so
they've been so weak for so long. The Brooklyn Nets are now moving into more of a contention to be a crown jewel team of the NBA. I mean, you take a look. It's the L.A. Lakers, of course. They are a crown jewel team.
Clearly.
You would have to say the Philadelphia 76ers and Boston Celtics because they are old school holdovers. Chicago Bulls because of what Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen did, their big epic run.
Right.
So you would have to say those are crown jewel teams. But who else would be a crown jewel team?
Well, you have teams like Golden State in the last 7, 8, 9
the Miami
years.
Heat, but
now the Miami Heat.
I wouldn't consider them to be a crown jewel. I would consider them to be a destination team.
And that's a big plus for the NBA players that are going to these cities and stuff. I mean, listen, and again, this is what some of the talk has been with Giannis. It's like Milwaukee. What does Milwaukee have to offer in comparative to, like, say, Miami?
They're really good sausages. Let me tell you what, they have some really good bratwurst over there, and the beer is pretty all right too.
I mean, this isn't a knock on
what Greeks don't like sausages and beer.
Exactly. I mean, this is what they've grown up on. So, but I mean, that's important for players and destinations and environment and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you're talking free agency, if the Heat were to land Giannis, that would be significant.
I'm going to say it. If you like your girls thick, you like thick girls, you like Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Because I have never met a skinny chick from Milwaukee.
All right. Well, there's probably one or two out there somewhere. They're probably working hard. Yeah.
Skinny chick from Wisconsin, that's like a contradiction in terms.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of grain up there. So I think that could be particularly part of the reason.
In more ways than one, they have legal medical marijuana.
Again, just like sports, I mean, we are all products of our environment. So, I mean, if that's what you have around you is grain and other things.
Everything is so green.
Yeah, so makes sense. Plus, it's cold, so for a long period of the time, you're probably pretty sedentary. You're probably home and just kind of chilling,
Eating cheese and drinking beer.
and those grains. Yeah, so
Okay. Well, now the NFL schedule is a little split, a little conflicted because normally they would have a top-heavy 1 o'clock schedule.
yes, I haven't seen a schedule like this in I can remember.
Well, yeah, normally there's 7 or 8 games at 1 o'clock,
and a
then
couple
there's
of West Coasters at 4.
and 4. You know, there's like 2, 3, 4
Yeah.
West Coasters, and then of course your primetime games.
Right.
Unless your team is coronavirus idiots and they end up having to move the schedule around just for you because you didn't want to wear a mask at a charity function or something. But anyway, I digress because I could really go off on
They weren't required.
22-year-old millionaires who think they're invincible.
Yeah, that's part of it. It's part of
Can't
it.
tell me what to do. I'm a grown-ass man. I got my own money. Yeah, okay, well. Yeah,
The other part of
you know,
that, though-
screw with the TV deal, but I digress.
Right.
But one reason why there's such a light slate at 1 o'clock, because there's only 5 games scheduled at 1 o'clock, and now there's 6 games scheduled at 4 o'clock.
Yes.
One of those reasons being is the Masters
Yeah.
being played in the fall. Oh, the foliage in Georgia this time of year. But it's
They've had great weather these last 3 days. They opened with rain day one.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
'cause it
and
was
then-
because a tropical storm was
Yeah,
passing
pretty much.
through.
Our 43rd storm of the year.
Right.
Yeah, but it fortunately passed through, and their weather's been phenomenal.
Speaking of the weather, we're up to we're up to tropical storm. What was it, Iota or
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
We've
It's like the 7th Greek letter in line.
Right.
It's been a lot of
We're going to
storms.
end up getting halfway into the Greek alphabet.
We are already. I think there's
Yeah.
28 named
I'm
storms
telling
they've
you.
had this. I think we set the record on many fronts.
Yeah, you're a weather nerd. By the way,
Yeah.
we could do weather nerd. We could do weather nerd for a good 20 minutes.
Yeah, we can talk. We can talk the
we got-
troposphere. Yeah, don't worry.
We could punch a hole in the middle of this show and talk about weather, pal. And
Yeah.
we'll bring Jim Cantori on, and Jim will go, "You sure you guys didn't go to meteorological school?" I said, "No, but we watch you a lot. We're big Jim Cantori fans. He's a good scientist, and he's a really fit dude.
He's an
But-
icon.
But speaking of the weather, though, wait. Let's get back to the Masters, though, because let's get everybody caught up in case they haven't been paying attention. Dustin Johnson went on a certifiable tear yesterday.
Yeah, 3-stroke lead right now.
Tear yesterday.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to catch him unless he implodes to some degree. Scores are high, though. I mean, like I
Right.
said, weather's great. Course is playing well,
Well-
and a lot of the guys are putting up some decent numbers. So he's in range. I mean, there are 3 or 4 guys that are within
Well, the Thursday scores
5
were,
shots.
The Thursday scores were crap because everything was still wet and they were still getting their feet under them. There was still a little bit of rain around and everything. It was a late start.
Well, not a lot of guys got to finish their round, so
Right.
there were some issues there,
Right.
but backed up
Boy,
into the
once
next
everything
one.
dried out, so it was off to the races. Even Bryson DeChambeau, who was in danger of missing the cut. The
He
guy
just
with the
got
long
there,
ball.
but he's imploded a few times in round 3, and he's certainly not in contention at this point.
Well, as the Masters, as Augusta always proves out, you can hit the ball 380 yards, but big hitters are not big winners at the Masters.
No,
There's
you have to have a complete game.
complete game.
Yeah, it's not a forgiving course at all. So
Yeah, I mean
that dude's loose. That Bryson DeChambeau, he's a loose guy. I've seen him interview in other situations, even through the TV.
a little bit of a wingnut.
I mean, you could tell this guy's like he's a solo artist. Yeah, for sure.
You see him, he's like. I don't really play against other golfers in the field or anything. I just play.
No.
Other golfers don't stop me from going to the
Yeah.
gym. So other golfers don't. I was like,
No, he plays
Okay.
against the other 5 or 6 voices that he's hearing inside his head. Those are his friends. So he's definitely a little bit loose. That guy.
He's got that millennial name, Bryson. Okay, he's Bryson, Branson, whichever. Oh look, if I don't cover that mirror, you're in 2 shots at once.
That's amazing. I should be in 2 shots.
Oh, shut up.
I should be in 2
I'm
shots.
just gonna go like this.
Yeah.
How about now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen,
But-
golfing names. It's funny you say that because
Oh, my
where else
God.
in sports can you have a name like Webb as a first name, or like you're saying now Bryson, or my gosh, there are some very interesting golfing names out there. First names, just like okay, these guys clearly
You can say it. White.
Well, okay,
Really
well,
white.
Listen, golf's a global sport, but not only that, notwithstanding, I'm going more affluent. It's
Right.
like you didn't like at Hagen
But
Ranch
the
Elementary.
guy named Tiger happens to be brown.
Well, when I went to school 100 years ago, there was no. It was Johnny and it was Mikey,
Lee Trevino.
and it was Laura and
VJ Singh. All
Very-
the brown people had funny names.
It was there was very common names, but you can pretty much look at just a name and go golfer, football player, soccer star. Wow, soccer. And down the line. So
Right. Well,
yeah.
no, Lee Trevino sounded like he played third base for the Mets.
Now there's some crossovers, and,
Yeah.
and we can do maybe a short list of that if we come a little more prepared for that.
VJ
but-
Singh sounded like a bowler for like the Mumbai, Yellow Jackets or whatever in
Yeah.
cricket league or whatever.
Well, Mike Tyson. If you didn't know who Mike Tyson was, you'd either think that he was in line to inherit a chicken farm, obviously with Tyson Chicken, or he could have been
Yes.
your mailman. I mean, you never know.
Instead, now he has a weed farm.
And now he has pay-per-view in a couple of weeks. That's a crazy story. Are you going to watch that fight?
Hell yeah.
Are you? Okay.
I'm gonna go to Diamond Dolls and watch.
Well,
that
that's
fight.
true. I may be working too, but besides all that,
I'm gonna go sit next to the DJ booth.
What would
and
you
watch
pay-
on that little TV?
what would you pay for that fight?
Oh, listen. Okay, I've been burned by Mike Tyson pay-per-view fights before.
Who hasn't?
Okay.
But you knew going in after the third or fourth one that you were going to spend your per minute cost wasn't very good.
It's like only $59.99.
Yeah, 30 years ago.
And
Yeah.
I the first thing I did was look at the undercard. Are there good fights on the undercard?
Exactly. You wanted
Are
the
there
whole
good
experience.
fights?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to watch like a fight.
Yeah.
So I would at least watch like the second or third undercard fight. So good. Well, at least I got some fights in. That one went 10 rounds. That one went 8 rounds.
Right.
At least I got, some rounds in.
Yeah.
Because you knew once you got to a Tyson fight, it wasn't going 5.
Well, the only advantage
It wasn't going 5.
of going to, because I'm sure you did this too, but we go to a friend's house, get a bunch of people together, get the pay-per-view.
Sure.
Okay. At least you knew, even with 10 cards on the fight, once the Tyson fight started, you were in your car in like 8 minutes after that point. So,
Sure.
yeah, so you just had to get to the Tyson fight. And then once you got there, you knew that you were on your way home at some point soon anyway. So,
At least you knew that. It's kind of like that way with MMA fighting, but MMA tends to go a little longer.
yeah.
We get a little more bang for our buck, and you have your friends over, and your friends come over and they bring all the beer and the food, and then you spring for the 50, 60, 70, 80 bucks for the. Damn it, Facebook! All right, I got to have a little talk with Facebook Live. Me and Facebook Live are going to have a fight, but you got your friends to bring the beer and the food, and at least you knew it was an economical situation.
Yeah,
At least,
yeah.
It was applicable to, or it was healthy to do that. All right, enough of this crap.
But we got football.
We got football,
Foosball.
foosball.
Well, you already alluded to the schedule. Obviously, it's a little bit wacky today, but
Right.
there's still games being played. So whenever they're being played, we are paying attention.
Oh well, we are live on YouTube. Thank God we're live somewhere. Jesus.
Cool. Let's talk about the state of the NFL. I think it's pretty clear some of the top teams right now that are marching forward. And what are we, halfway through the season now, week 10? And I think your front runner is pretty clear. And it's not just record-wise and obviously the whole hype with Mahomes. And I'm kind of alluding to who it's going to be.
The front runner would be.
It's the Chiefs, clearly. I mean, just their balance and the way that they can beat you. You assume that it's on Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
Drop back in the pocket, 4 wide, just throw the ball down the field. But in reality, league average for quarterbacks is 35 pass attempts per game. Okay, he's sitting at only 30. So again, perception is Chiefs are move the ball down the field, air it out. Tyreek Hill, Demarcus Robinson, all these deep threats and stuff, and Kelsey, they're just going to beat you to death in the air. In reality, they're running the football too, and they're playing a better controlled style of offense. And a good reason to that, being a complete team, is because their defense is very good too. So
they managed to really make steady improvements over the last couple of years.
yeah, Andy Reid's drafted on both sides of the
And
ball.
what do we got? What's he got? Jim Schwartz is the
defensive coordinator.
Yeah, which he's I believe he's got a couple of Super Bowl rings.
He's got a few.
Yeah,
He's two.
and he's actually he's one guy who I thought in his short run, his brief run as a head coach with Philadelphia and with Detroit, I thought he was a good head coach. I thought he was a good coach. His teams played hard. They played well.
Right. Some guys are coordinators, though, by nature, I think.
Right, but I think Schwartz can hang as a head coach.
All right,
he had a lot of bad luck with injuries when it came to Detroit,
and the Lions have never been viable in recent years.
He got them to the playoffs.
Okay, I'm saying though, outside of
playoffs,
playoffs, outside of him overall. I mean, again, environment is everything. So regardless of how good of a coach you are, and you can use Belichick as an example.
Yeah,
I mean, he was losing coach record wise until Brady showed up. And that argument's been played out so many times. So, again, it's a complete approach. It's coaching. It's players. You can't have one without the other.
Right. So,
obviously, credit needs to be pushed around. And not so much as well, too, if you're not successful. It's coaches and players. So, so it's clearly the Chiefs, in my opinion, at this point. There's no difference from last year. They just – he's shown that they can play from behind. When they do get behind, that's not an issue with them either because they've had to do both. They've come out where they've executed and they beat you, or you've gotten a jump on them in some form. In big games, playoffs, obviously last year, the way they played and came back and overcame leads.
I found us on Facebook, by the way.
Yeah, so Chiefs are clearly number one. Now, the obvious two, I'm assuming people are going to look at the records and put Pittsburgh there. Now, I'm a big Pittsburgh fan. So,
of course you're a big Pittsburgh fan.
And I kind of like to think that I am not biased when it comes to at least most of the analysis. So, here's our 8-0 Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion. We're a good football team. There's no question. Our defense, we fly around the football field. I think we're still 1 in turnovers and 1 in sacks.
You're up against a bad motor scooter today, though.
Well, we'll get to that matchup in a bit. But overall, I think the Steelers, not just on record alone, because, again, you can't be better, at least record-wise, than 8-0. But the last couple of weeks, what I've seen in the game against Baltimore, on a positive side, okay, obviously we didn't have our best game. Ben didn't have our best game. His best game. But you kind of knew when these two teams get together based on history that it's going to be knockdown, drag down, to the wire type game. And it always is. There's no exceptions to these two teams when they play.
Right.
Steelers didn't play their best game at all. And in history, the way these two teams have faced, they would have not won that football game. So it's got to feel pretty good to go out there and beat a team, your enemy, your division foe.
Your enemy.
It's your enemy, dude. Sorry, see, that was the fandom that came out there. But your division foe and not play your best game. So that's a good thing for the Steelers, okay?
Right.
Next week we come out against the Cowboys. I'm not going to say we laid an egg, but we all know who the Cowboys are. The Steelers knew who the Cowboys are. And we came out and we had to come back in that football game. And we did, and we won the football game. And again, not playing our best football.
Right.
So, again, just quickly going back in terms of where we are. Yes, 8-0. Are we the second best team in football? Does it really matter? You want to be the best team in football. And to get to that point, once we get into the playoffs, our MO has been, in certain spots, I feel a little bit out-coached. Now, again, in those games where you've been out-coached to guys like Bill Belichick, who has had our number. And the Patriots have been our nemesis. Again, now these are great coaches. But if you also want to be in that conversation, which everybody puts Tomlin as a great coach, and I agree with that.
And I agree with it as well.
The tenure, the titles, what the players are saying about it, I get all that. Okay, I'm not saying this is not a Tomlin issue because, again, it goes to both sides, players and coaches.
Sure.
But I'll say this. I'll say that as an 8-0 football team, I don't think we're an 8-0 football team in terms of talent, in terms of overall what we bring to the table. So it's going to be interesting to see. Today we come out against Cincinnati, like you said. Joe Burrow, he's been playing pretty well despite a team that has weapons, but they're certainly challenged on the offensive line. He gets hit a lot. I think he's second or third in sacks. Steelers are going to bring it today, and they're in a spot at home today where I think that this is a game where they haven't played well the last 2 weeks. I expect them to come out today and put a smack on Cincinnati.
It's going to be a little bit of heavy weather.
Well, Cincinnati has never played us well, and I don't see today being any different. Again, when we talk about regression, I've said it many times. Things go you find your baseline and you kind of deviate one way or the other. Steelers the last 2 weeks haven't played well. And
all right, well, listen. Let's do a fantasy review on this game then. How about that? Okay. Let's start breaking down some of the fantasy players. Let's start with the quarterbacks.
Okay.
Big Ben coming off the COVID list.
Yes.
And having yesterday's walkthrough and today's walkthrough to practice. But I firmly believe that the guy has been injured so many times and then not practiced and then played well. that it doesn't matter.
Well, last week was was a prime example when he had the knee injury and came back and played, and we won the football game. We don't win that game in the second half if Ben's not in there. So Duck Hodges is not going to get us to the promised land. It's just not happening. So, all right, fantasy-wise today in that game, again, Ben, the last couple of games, at least his numbers haven't been great. He's typically been much better at home. The last several years, his numbers support that.
Right.
So, yeah, offensively, Connors going to run the football. I think there's points in this game today. I really do, despite the fact that the Steelers' defense is going to create some havoc. They'll get to Joe a couple times, and it's going to look bad for Joe. But I think he's going to make some plays, too. I think that kid T. Higgins is good.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna go across the ball. We're gonna talk about Joe Burrow.
Oh, yeah, Burrow has obviously been playing well all year. I mean, he's exceeded expectations, and I think a large part of that is because you look at the Bengals and go, "Oh my gosh!"
So you say
that was almost $1, by the way. I almost threw it out there. Yeah, but no, it's the Bengals, and their offensive line is not great, and they've got skill players, but they're the Bengals. Like, you can't overstate the fact that they're the Bengals. So but still, that withstanding, there's points in that game today because the Steelers' defense is opportunistic and good. Number one in sacks, number one in turnovers. But we're sometimes susceptible to the deep ball. And, again, what has Joe Burrow's been doing? He's been beating teams throwing the football down the field. So, should be a good football game today, but the Steelers are clearly the better team. And regardless of the score, your eyeballs should tell you that the Steelers look like an 8-0 team. And at the end of the day, should be 9-0 after today. So.
All right, then. So since we've delved into the fantasy analysts portion of the program, let's ask about a guy who had a really bad day at the office last week.
Oh man, I know where this is going.
Mr. Tom Brady.
TB, yeah, it didn't look good for that whole team.
Yeah,
I mean, minus the Aaron Rodgers dance, if he had pulled that off too, it was like a repeat performance of games. Total one-sided.
It was pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: I kept looking in. And then going,
it never got better. It got worse. It got worse as the game went on.
It was a downhill rolling dumpster fire, and the fire got bigger.
Yeah, it was bad. Now, if you want to talk about the Bucs organization as a team, they're led by Bruce Arians. Okay. Now, most players are Bruce Arians guys. I mean, he's a player's coach. He's fiery. He says some things off the cuff. It's loose. It's the anti-New England organization in terms of discipline and structure, and everybody is held accountable, and it's just completely two different worlds. Now, Tom can certainly he clearly thrived in one. There's no reason for him not to be able to thrive in this one, but I do think that there are some conflicts in ideology there between Arians and Tom. Now, that withstanding, they're a playoff team. Okay, Tampa Bay is a good football team. Their defense is playing really, really well.
Oh yeah.
They still have a shit ton of weapons. Excuse me, that's $1. And again, they're to some degree haven't been healthy all year. They've been hurt on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah.
And again, their offensive line grade is middle of the pack. So Thomas had to make some plays. Now they're knocking on Tom. Similar to what you saw with Drew Brees, again, perception versus reality is, well, Tom's not throwing the football down the field. Well, contraire mon frère. He actually is leading the league in
He's a good one.
Air yards. Okay, there's another stat out there, air yards, which is a simple explanation for how far
the ball travels in the air.
From your hand to where it lands. Okay, and he's one in the league in air yards. Okay, so it's not an issue if Tom Brady can't get the ball down the field. He's just not completing the ball down the field. So I think their philosophy should be slightly different. Granted, they've got all these weapons, but they can run the football a little bit too. And I think with a little bit of balance and a little bit more ball control and not having to do that Bruce Arians open it up style offense, that's not what Tom has been used to. So I think with a slight philosophy change, again, you're not going to change the culture. And I think culture ultimately will be maybe the downfall to a degree on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, because
possibly. I don't disagree.
You're kind of like, your leadership is what reflects attitude. So if your leader, ultimately what we're doing within this whole country,
right?
That's what your players are going to follow. So there's a little bit of a power struggle there. But I will say this: Tampa is gotta have to be on the road for the playoffs, because 2 weeks ago we all had the Saints for dead. And now they're the best team in the NFC again.
That doesn't bode well for Mr. Brady. He
And
does not have a winning record on the road.
He's 5-5 in his career out of 41 playoff games.
Yeah.
He's used to comfort. So Tampa's not going to be having any comfort when they have to maybe go into teams like.
He lost a jet ski last week. That's the reason why they lost. He lost a piece of his dock and a jet ski in the
In the harbor
storm.
Oh yeah, it's part of it.
Yeah. My God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, if Tampa has to go on the road, potentially it's Seattle, perhaps it's Green Bay, it's Philly again.
Cold,
because they're physical,
cold.
So it's not going to be an easy path for Tampa Bay, certainly, and Tom Brady. So we'll see.
Okay,
but they're not dead. Listen, Tampa Bay's a good football team. They're a playoff team, and they're going to get in. And they're going to have to play very good football, both sides, in order to get through on the road.
Okay, well, I see this as a big bounce back game for him. I have him on one of my DFS rosters, but one of my other DFS rosters has Josh Allen. As much as it pains me to pick and use a Buffalo Bills quarterback, being a dyed-in-the-wool Miami Dolphins fan, sort of like you choosing Joe Burrow in a DFS.
Well, if he wasn't playing the Steelers, I can probably take him.
Josh Allen is on fire right now. Okay, he literally looks like a kid that can do whatever he wants with the ball.
The thing about him from a fantasy perspective is his ceiling is enormous, okay? Because he has those games where he doesn't have to throw for 300 yards in order to light up, in terms of points for fantasy production. I mean, he can get you 60, 70 yards on the ground and a touchdown because he's that sort of guy. I mean, he's very physical as a quarterback, and they run that read option too. So he can have a monster game. But his floor is also fairly low, because you've seen in recent weeks, outside of last week's debacle of Seattle, but Seattle's defense is terrible. He can have some stinkers too. He could not get that rushing touchdown, and he can only throw one touchdown and get you 200 yards. And then you're looking like, wow, Buffalo still won the football game because they're a physical team too, but you're not getting that top fantasy production from Josh Allen. Now, I like him too. The kid's, he can do everything on the field. And when he has those games and he's in your lineup, you're like 30 fantasy points. Holy crap! He's 1 or 2 in the league, and they rate him out. I think he's number 2 this week.
Right.
But you have to be prepared to take a guy like that and understand that there's a lot of risk as well.
Right. But you take a look at the Arizona Cardinals and their defense. A lot of great personnel. Holes. There's always a hole, and a good quarterback always, of course, takes whatever the defense gives them, and they give. They give a little here, they give a little there. They're one of those bend, don't break defenses.
Yeah, I had a Steelers defense like that for years.
You saw a rookie bend them and break them last week.
Yeah, well, that's the highest total on the board this week. I think it's 55.5.
Yeah.
So they're projecting points in that game. And I'm okay with that. And again, it's just that
Norman's out with COVID.
You would consider that this sort of game for Josh Allen would be extremely productive. He rates out very, very high.
He's going to light it up. I literally put Josh Allen as the third best quarterback in the NFL. Third best.
Maybe.
I give him number 3.
Now, are we talking fantasy production, or are we talking
just production?
Nah, he's not for me. He's not that high on my board.
But it's Mahomes, Rodgers, and Allen.
No, there's a few other guys I put
Rodgers,
up there.
Don't you? You won't even give Rodgers?
No. Listen, I'm taking Rodgers before I'm taking him.
Okay, so Mahomes, Wilson, Rodgers.
Yeah, I would take Derek Carr over him. I would take, oh my God, right? There's so many. I would take Joe Burrows over him right now.
Hate.
No, I'm telling you.
I'm not going to defend a Buffalo Bills quarterback.
No.
So you're
listen,
not going to get a lot of argument out of me.
Well, we're going to go ahead and argue the next quarterback, who I maybe wouldn't put ahead of Josh Allen. That's Lamar Jackson. Now, he was on everybody's board as being number 1, but he was never on my board as being number 1. And it shows. Baltimore is another one of these teams that, again, record-wise, and I don't know, I don't want to say what persona they put forth as being the Ravens, good coaching, good this, good that. Lamar Jackson, to me, is a little bit of an Achilles heel on that offense. Now, again, as a scheme, he's not, because they run the football, and they run it well. They're still, I think, 1 or 2 in the league in rushing yards. But they run it as a team, Lamar being a big part of that.
Right.
You don't run the football when you don't have the lead. And the issue at Lamar, and again, if you're not going to, and teams like we've talked about before the show, this is the NFL. Defenses are going to understand what it is that you do well,
right,
and then attempt to take that away.
It comes down to coaching. It really does come down to coaches.
But it comes down to talent, too. You have to be able to make plays.
Sure.
And right now, defense.
Coaches take the talent and they find ways to optimize the talent.
Agree with that.
Okay. And Harbaugh and company have found ways, and Greg Roman have found ways over the last 3 seasons to optimize Jackson's talent.
Harbaugh was on the hot seat prior to Lamar Jackson showing up in Baltimore.
Right.
They were going to fire Jim Harbaugh.
Sure.
Okay. He got
at the time would have been great because he would be in Miami right now.
Possibly. But he would be
I'm
gone
with our coach now,
without Lamar Jackson. Now, again, this is not a necessarily bad knock on Lamar. It's just an analysis of who he is right now to this point as an NFL quarterback.
Well, the NFL will analyze film and they will expose you. Okay, they will find out how to solve you.
Well,
okay, you saw it. Listen, you saw it in the first 3 quarters of the Miami game. Even though Buffalo ended up pulling that game out, okay, but Miami had the lead on 2 different occasions because they caused Jackson to go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3. There was I think he had 4 3 and outs in a row. They got him off the field 3 or 4 times in a row, and then they built a 10-point. They came back and scored 10 unanswered points. Okay. Teams figure you out. This is the NFL.
Yeah.
So it comes down to your being able to adjust in game, being able to make that adjustment. Okay, they adjusted to this, now I go to that. You adjusted to that, I go to that. It's not his coaching staff. It's Jackson.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now, he doesn't have the mentality to be able to make the adjustments in play, in game. Okay, whether it's a disconnect between the coaching staff, because we all know Greg Romans is fantastic. We all know Harbaugh is fantastic. Okay, there's something that's disconnecting. He's not getting it.
Well, I'll say this in terms of production, in terms of what you need to do as a quarterback. You need to be able to throw outside the numbers. And if he can't prove to do that, teams are putting more guys in the box, as they call it, and they're taking away the running lanes that he had up to this point.
Right.
Defenses are scheming against Lamar Jackson and what he does best, which is run the football.
Yep.
The Raiders, fortunately for the Raiders, and being a good football team, don't have many games where they're behind at halftime. But when they are, Lamar's 0-6 up to last week where they pulled out that game. When the Ravens are down at halftime, they're not a team that can't win or that can win when they don't, when things fall off script. They're a running football team. And listen, when it comes later in the year now, we've talked about this, playoffs, colder weather, you need to be able to run the football. They do it extremely well. But they're going to be playing some good football teams too. And if you can get up on Baltimore in any kind of way and make them deviate from their game plan, they're in trouble. They're an average football team. So, again,
yep,
Lamar is their quarterback, and he's going to be their quarterback for a long time. His kid's got talent. He's the first or second fastest guy on every field he steps on.
Sure.
But when you're the quarterback, you need to be able to throw the football. And you need to be throw it at least the potential of throwing the football in spots.
Yeah, listen.
To keep defenses honest.
Right. When it comes to the pass-run ratio, I think that there's 5 plays in every game that he should have thrown the ball instead of run. Okay, because no matter what the product of the run is, whatever the outcome of when he takes off running, whether it's 3 yards, whether it's 15 yards, whether you get the first down, whether even you score a touchdown, okay, which I'm sure he's going to. But there's 5 plays in every game where he sees the field out in front of him and you see it click in his head, run, not throw it 25 yards down the field where Andrews is wide open or Brown is wide open. Okay, it's run, and he takes off running, and I think it's a mistake, and it's a mistake he's got to stop making, and he's not going to improve, and he's not going to be as dangerous as he can be until he gets it through his head that he should throw that ball downfield rather than run.
He's got to be able to throw it downfield. He has to be able to be accurate enough.
He's capable of throwing the ball.
He hasn't proved it fully yet. The point is that
he worked all off season on becoming a better
I know. Yeah, Greg Romans sent him to the Manning camp,
and because
And
it is
he was a
glaring
celebrity guest.
need to get this accomplished, and he's not there yet.
No, it's a working process.
Okay, and he's not
Yeah.
there yet. So
And this year ain't the year.
the thing is, remember, separation.
Guru's Guru, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to the show.
on
Cling, cling.
Facebook. It's okay. Don't worry.
Separation-
Don't worry about it. Get a haircut, you hippie.
Separation in the NFL, I mean, people think that these guys are wide open. It's a half a nanosecond.
Sure.
I mean, that's the difference. So linebackers are basically saying, okay, we don't necessarily have to react to that first move, which may be a play action or something like that,
Right.
because we know he's not going to do that. You get guys on their heels, then you're at the advantage. But when guys are running downhill constantly trying to get to you as the quarterback, it doesn't matter how fast you are. It doesn't matter, how good as a team you run the football. You don't win games by putting your quarterback in option reads and have him tuck it 10, 12, 15 times a game.
Right.
That's not today's NFL.
No.
So, and as good as Lamar Jackson is at doing that, and he could be the best in football, that's not the best for the Baltimore Ravens. And it's not the best formula to win all your football games. Because like I said before, you go in, you have a script. If you fall off script and you need to create, adjust, do other things past the football, the Ravens, they haven't shown that to this point. Lamar
And
Jackson
it's
hasn't shown that.
Decision-making process. The
Yeah.
decision-making process. Maybe after time, because this is his third season. Let's keep in mind, young man's in his third season. Okay. He's still a young dude.
Quarterbacks are
He's
coming out
learning-
hot now, though.
Yeah.
First-year guys are blowing it up. Justin Herbert's blowing
Joe
it up.
Burrow.
Joe Burrow blowing it up. Tua looks pretty good game one.
Timothy on Jackson needs weapons.
What now? Yeah, I said that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said that. They totally dropped the ball on not getting Antonio Brown. I mean, they did. They totally dropped the ball on not getting him.
Well,
It
Antonio
would've-
wouldn't have fixed that philosophy, and it wouldn't have fixed Lamar Jackson in terms of
Well-
being able to make plays. Just because you have ammunition, you have
Right.
to have the gun, and
Well-
and he's the gun clearly, and it's just he's not.
I'll say this:
firing on all.
Brown would have been one of those guys that goes 5 plays per game. Two of those plays, he would have availed himself to be wide open. Because what did Antonio Brown do very well when he was with Pittsburgh?
got open.
He saw Ben was out of the pocket, so he got his ass open.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would have been a guy who would fix at least 2 of those 5 decisions.
It may have helped, but again, until you get to see a guy like, especially Antonio Brown, 3 years removed from the NFL now, if he still has that same sort of ability and talent,
Watch out today.
maybe.
Watch out.
We'll see. We'll see.
Watch out. He's had a little bit of practice now.
Well, again, ability. You need to see what he. At one point, he was the best receiver in football, and then he fell off the map. Okay, that to me right there is hard to do. Okay, there's a lot of things that go into that equation to get that result. So I don't put a lot of confidence in a guy or whatever it was, but it's
Alcohol.
listen, these athletes, they get knocked on, for many different things. But the ones that are successful, there are reasons. And the ones that stay successful, there's even more reasons. So he got to the point on talent, obviously, because what the numbers were and the title. And again, at one point, he was the best receiver in football. But he fell from grace about as far and as fast as anybody that I've ever seen. And there are reasons for that. So
All right. I'm going to let you in on a little thing, and since we're a little backwater podcast with a dozen viewers in the cul-de-sac of YouTube, okay. Being in our business that we are on a regular basis, being the adult entertainment club business, I can tell you for a fact that he at times has been tearing it up at clubs. Am I literally going to get the guru's guru having lunch in the background of my show? Is this literally going to happen?
Food's going in my bedroom then.
Okay, that's fine. You don't need to drop the food on the floor. Guru's guru, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen. I didn't switch cameras, just I was like, I'm watching you go. I'm like, are you serious?
Players are pissed off they didn't get Brown.
Yeah, I know they are. I know. Especially his little cousin Hollywood.
That's what this Des Bryant thing was.
Yes. I know, because they needed a guy.
Well, knowing that, I got to say that.
There, now I can use your background because you don't have a guy eating a quiche in the background.
Yeah, by the way, it smells good.
It does. It's good.
That's
From
desperation. There's no way that you can put that much stock into the name at this point because that's all it is. Antonio Brown is a name in the NFL.
I understand.
So to me, that worries me. And I'll say another thing that worries me is that quarterback we just talked about called out his offensive coordinator this week and called him predictable. Now, you know what that tells me?
No, he said other teams know what we're doing. He didn't call him predictable, per se.
Okay, then look up the definition of predictability, and that means that your opposition understands what it is you're going to do.
I feel attacked.
All right, so point aside, there has to be some accountability there, don't you think? You're the quarterback of the franchise. You think Patrick Mahomes loses a football game and he's calling out the OC? Or you think all the disconnect over the years between Tom and coaching and Ben and coaching and all these other great quarterbacks, have you ever heard them call out their OC? No. So, again, don't make me start checking anti-Lamar Jackson boxes because Aaron Rodgers is playing well. I've got room. I can put Lamar Jackson on that list.
Guy you need to hate?
Listen, I can put no, because I tell it like it is. And you know what? I'm glad as a Steeler fan that Baltimore's clamoring right now for Antonio Brown because that, to me, shows me where they are state of mind-wise. And that maybe is a good reason why
they
2
picked up
weeks
Des
ago.
Bryant.
Another one. Okay, that may be why 2 weeks ago we didn't play our best game and we beat them. So it's interesting to watch moving forward now psychologically how that team does. Because if they struggle some way down the line and they have faced some adversity and again, off script, not just philosophy and running the football, but as an organization, they start to look around and question things. Listen, that's an issue. So maybe Baltimore.
Can we just get to the conference championship games and just stop screwing around? I mean, seriously.
It's going fast enough. They're going to be here tomorrow. So
right.
we're already
let's
in week
get to
10.
the Steelers versus the Chiefs. Let's get to the Seahawks versus New Orleans.
Saints, pretty much, I think so.
Let's just get there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know all these other teams that have skin in the game, and but what about it? Just stop. I mean, all things considered, if those 4 teams maintain a good baseline of star health and stars within the system, and they maintain that health. I mean, that includes Seattle, who can't seem to keep a running back healthy.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, guy stubs his toe in warm up, and he's out for 3 weeks. Injured reserve, stubbed his toe on the friggin' Gatorade jug. But those 4 teams, all things being considered, and I'm not discounting the Buffalo Bills, not enough defense. I'm not discounting.
Philly, perhaps.
Green Bay. Not enough defense.
Well, they're a little soft.
They're not enough defense. That's what I'm not discounting Tampa Bay. Not enough offense. But I'm just saying those 4 teams are really, really the cream of the crop. And those 4 teams you should see in the conference championship. If I'm wrong, I'll be back here the day of the conference championship games to say, whoopsie, I was wrong. But I'm telling you right now, let's just get to them and get on to the Super Bowl and get this putrid season over with. 2020 has been absolutely terrible. Unpredictable, crazy, superstars going down by the dozen. I mean, I've never seen more superstar players go down in an individual season in my entire life.
Yeah, it's been MASH
I've been
unit.
watching football for 40 years.
Yeah, well, I'm not ready to get rid of football too soon. 10 weeks went by pretty quickly, and certainly the next 6 to 8 are going to go by even faster.
I don't want football to be over tomorrow, but I mean,
because that makes us older too. By the way, if we wake up tomorrow and it's the NFC Championship game, we're older. We're like 2 months older.
What?
I'm not ready for that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also mid-January.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, can we enjoy some of the cooler weather that we're about to get?
Fine.
Wow.
All right, so let's do a little rundown of who you think the hottest league and DFS players are going to be this week.
Today.
I mean, because we've already done a little bit of individual analysis. And we got Teddy Bridgewater warming up over your shoulder as we speak. He's And the funny thing about Teddy Bridgewater, I really like Teddy Bridgewater. I really would have liked having Teddy Bridgewater in Miami at one time a couple of years ago when they were talking about getting rid of Jim Harbaugh. or John Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh.
And they were talking about
They may get rid of Jim too after
Yeah,
what's
right.
going on, but we'll see.
take anybody named Harbaugh right now.
That pretty much was a Freudian slip.
But I could have envisioned Teddy Bridgewater and Harbaugh in Miami, restarting the franchise or reestablishing the culture, because Bridgewater has been nothing short of a revelation at quarterback for Carolina. I mean, they've lost games in spite of him. I mean, they have.
He's
Found
played
things to lose.
well. He obviously was very regarded coming out of college. The Saints took him. He sat behind Breeze.
Their defense is terrible.
When he got in games with that offense, he showed that he was able to move the football. Carolina's happy. He's a guy that can help you win, football games
Carolina
for sure.
builds a defense that can just slow people down. If they build a defense, the big thing with defense right now is points per game. Points per game. Then the next tier. Hey, there you are.
Turnovers.
Then the next tier is turnovers.
Yeah, turnovers.
And then sacks. Okay, because everybody used to be sack, cut off the head of the dragon, kill the quarterback.
Yeah, pressures, sacks, it's all broken down.
3 downs and out. It's get them off the field.
Yeah.
If you get into the red zone, make sure they leave with a field goal attempt.
Yeah, well, obviously you're hitting
that's
upon
just the name of the game now.
Yeah, you're hitting
And
upon
if Carolina gets a defense that can slow anybody down, because they're giving up a lot of red zone touchdowns. They're giving up a lot of points.
Yeah, they're not an elite football team by any stretch. They're in a little bit of a dismantling phase. But
that Mendoza line is about 18 points per game between elite and not elite, or the top teams and the bottom teams
in terms of points scored per team,
defensive points allowed per game.
That's probably the delta. It's probably about that. But again, in today's NFL, it's all offense. So
right.
You need
gotta
to
slow the other guy down. Though.
It's things like third down conversion also is
right.
very important. So yeah, it's a lot of the analytics, I'm sure. And Carolina's not there yet overall as a team, but a good foundation. Mike Davis, when McCaffrey's been hurt all year, showed he can run the football. And the philosophy of teams now is have 2 guys back there. They do. Teddy's a quarterback.
To have 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, their defense was good. I mean, with Kuechly for years, you knew obviously the situation with him and how good they were on defense.
Yeah, you knew there was going to be a lot of drop-off when Kuechly retired.
But there's issues there, certainly, and they're rebuilding, and maybe they'll get the pieces to go in place.
They drafted that kid, Brown, the kid out of Auburn, the defensive tackle, who's been a monster when he's in.
Yeah.
An absolute monster.
Yeah.
And that's great. You have a centerpiece for the defense, but if they're not drafting defense the next 2 years, if they're not going out and picking up good mid-level, effective system-type free agents over the next 2 years, that defense is just too mediocre.
We say it all the time with
football.
football.
Good offense that's going to eventually feature McCaffrey for an extended period of time.
You hope. But again, he's taken, with the amount of carries that he's had, this is his first real injury
that
he's had.
I understand, but...
Yeah. Well, certainly, listen, like any team in the draft.
And now you have Davis who can take some of that strain off of him. I mean, you look at New Orleans. It's almost like a repeat blueprint with Matt Rule and his offenses, and Joe, what's his name, the offensive coordinator, the kid that came from LSU, and it's almost like the New Orleans blueprint. Okay, you have to have a banger to go along with your Alvin Kamara. Your Alvin Kamara. Everybody talks about how there's Swiss Army knife players. Well, aside from throwing, Alvin Kamara, catch, run, block, catch, run, block. He is a very high score, a very high rating, catch, run, block. Okay, because I've seen Alvin Kamara take on a blitzing 240-pound linebacker, and I mean just put the guy's lights out, just jack him right up, stand him. You could hear the clack when he just sticks his face mask in the guy's chest. So when you get a player of that caliber, like McCaffrey is, you have to have a number 2. Now, when the kid was a rookie, what was it? It was D'Angelo
Williams.
D'Angelo Williams was his number 2, which is, he was a hard nose.
Yeah.
And I think that Davis, you need to re-sign Mike Davis. You need to sign him to an extension. You need to pay that man, because your offense is going to work better with a guy like that.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, again, Carolina rebuilding, you need to build like most teams we say that are successful when they're rebuilding. You build from the interior.
Yep.
And offensive line, defensive line. I'm
Yep,
sure
yep.
they'll get the. And they drafted the defensive lineman. They need to address that side of the football as well.
They got the D. Brown, I think is the kid's name. He is just an absolute beast. I mean, when I looked at him, and he went number 5 overall, or number 4 overall. He went before Tua. Okay, so a kid like that, now if you want to go on a defense, now you got to go get you a middle linebacker. Get you a middle linebacker. It was like, oh, get an edge guy. What do you? Okay, sure, get an edge guy. Let me ask you a question. How many defensive sets does your edge guy put the right players in place?
Yeah, no,
not
your linebackers.
Okay, edge guys. Let me tell you what, edge guys are becoming a dime a dozen. If you're 6'3", 255 pounds, and you can run fast, and you have long arms, and those are you go to a combine, and there's what's that big huge group standing over there in the corner? They all look like small forwards in basketball.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what those are. Okay, edge guys are a dime a dozen. There's a million of them.
Yeah.
Okay, but a middle linebacker and a defensive tackle that blows up the interior of every offensive play.
Well, your edge rushers now are your outside linebackers.
Right.
Well, a guy like T.J. Watt goes like 6'2", 6'3", 230, maybe wet.
Right.
Flying all over the
like
field.
A gorilla.
Well, he's flying all over the field, making all the plays. So
he has got arms like a gibbon. He's got long ass arms.
He's
him and his brother.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
they're multi-dimensional players.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's another thing that's really come into mind, because once we getting back to Brown being a centerpiece, sort of like Christian Wilkins with the Dolphins being a centerpiece, defensive tackles are critical because teams will try to gash those, outside linebacker edge players. Okay, he's up the field. Well, here's a lane. There's a lane. Okay, teams gash them.
Yeah.
That's the reason why you see the RPO so much now.
Yeah.
Is because, you want a guy that's 240, 250, who runs a 4.6 40 and can zip up the field and kill my quarterback? Well, now my quarterback's going to make him think.
Yeah.
Okay,
get him on his heels.
There's always give and take. There's always different strategies that teams that switch to. I mean, now you have teams switching to 220-pound linebackers.
Speed.
Because they have to be able to be fast enough to cover backs and tight ends out of the field.
And the versatility of the quarterbacks as well. I mean,
Right.
you need guys that can be able to listen. If your quarterback is faster than your linebacker,
Yep.
Then that's an issue.
Yep.
Because that's who normally has that guy, the shadow or sort of thing. So certainly these linebackers have got to be super quick.
Yep. The only big dudes on defense now are defensive tackles.
Yeah.
Or conventional defensive ends. Literally now you're seeing the designations for these players as DL. DL. Why? Well, because teams are playing 5-man fronts and they shift, and a guy who plays defensive tackle could be playing defensive end. Shaq Lawson, with the Dolphins, case in point. Christian Wilkins with the Dolphins, case in point. He'll be playing over the nose. He'll be playing the one gap, and then all of a sudden the defense shifts, and now he's playing right defensive end. He's head up over the tackle.
Yeah, the quarterbacks are so smart now with them being able to pre-read, and so defenses are shifting and moving all the time.
All over the place.
Yeah, a team starts out in nickel, and then all of a sudden they're in cover 2 or cover 3.
Listen, your guy pioneered that. He and
Dick LeBeau.
He along Dick LeBeau.
Well, the
and
3-4.
Romeo Crennel.
Yeah.
Okay, with the Patriots. When Romeo was with the Patriots, they decided, okay, we're going to have our front 7 stand up and just walk around and look around. And it's just like, pace back and forth. Like, where's everybody going?
Yeah.
Who's it? Oh, what about over here? Oh, what over here? Where's that guy going? Where's he? And then all of a sudden, the 3 guys that are on the defensive line, you'll have like the nose tackle is down in a 4-point stance. Then everybody else is standing up. And then all of a sudden the safeties blitz. Because you've got to keep the offense off guard.
Yeah, well, the Steelers' philosophy with the 3-4 was putting 3 hogs up on the line.
Right.
And then your linebackers were, like we talked about, were athletic, fast, guys that can get to
Hayward's
the quarterback.
a monster, man.
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
my God.
But that back from Dick LeBeau. You had guys like Greg Lloyd playing outside linebacker, and if he was 210 pounds, it was a lot.
No,
but
he
that
was
dude,
220,
dude,
230.
at times,
he was a big dude.
He had 4% body fat.
I know.
Black belt taekwondo, like
Sure.
6th degree. Dude was a beast.
Sure.
He was fast, mean, quick. But again, that was the style of defenses that the Steelers employed.
And they pioneered it, and now you have teams that are just. I mean, it got passed down. It got passed down to a guy like Matt Patricia with the Patriots. It got who's your DC now with the.
Oh, you put me on the spot now. Thanks.
Aha, caught you.
Thank
You don't
you.
even know who your defensive.
No, I
coordinator.
do know who
It's
it is.
okay.
I
I
just
don't
had
know
to-
who the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins is, but he's doing a hell of a job.
Yeah, well, obviously our defense where we're flying around the field has been amazing.
You know, but the point being is now defenses are more fluid and they're relying on faster guys on the front seven. You see these tweener safety linebackers. You know, I mean the Dolphins have 3 of them. You know, they have a Landon Roberts, they have a Grugier Hill, and it just these are guys that weigh 225, 230.
And can fly.
Baker, 230.
Yeah.
Okay, and absolute fly.
And it's not like they're just fast; they're strong. I mean, they're training guys right now. The athletes we've talked about it. They train all year long.
Hit like a brick.
These guys are just they're machines out there.
Right,
So,
and now your defensive linemen, instead of defensive ends being a 260 to 270 pound guy who is power and rush and all of the above, the J.J. Watts, if you will.
Right.
Okay, now your defensive ends are 250, 260.
Yeah.
Okay, and that started with Jason Taylor.
Oh yeah, for
Jason
sure.
Taylor came in when the Dolphins drafted Jason Taylor in the 2nd round. I went, who? You know, guy from Akron. Who? What? And then I look and I'm like 6'6", 240 pounds.
Yeah.
And he's a defensive end.
Yeah, technically, technically.
You know, we had just come from an era of Trace Armstrong, 290-pound mauler at defensive end. Okay, and now all of a sudden this 240-pound guy comes in. You know, and the athletes got taller and faster.
Yep.
Simple as that. It's speed and hand fighting. Whoa, hand fighting.
My apologies to the Butler family, the defensive coordinator for the Steelers. I'm a lifelong fan. Yes.
You Googled it, didn't
Keith
you?
Butler is the defensive coordinator
Keith
for the
Butler.
Steelers. Yes.
You Googled it, didn't you?
I didn't Google anything. So
Yeah, you did.
it came right back to me.
I was wondering where all that clicking was.
No, I was looking at the weather for tomorrow. It's going to rain, by the way. 40% chance.
It's going to rain.
It's going to rain. By the way, there's a milestone also in the NFL today regarding the Patriots, which I have a little bit of a take on that game before we wrap here.
Hot take.
I think this is the first time since 1964 that the Patriots are a home dog. I mean, they are a 7-point dog tonight against Baltimore. No, in all
Not
seriousness.
the Steve Grogan era?
In all seriousness, I think it's like 11 years or 12 years
Jim
I've
Plunkett.
heard, that they've been a home dog of any stretch. But they're not just a home dog. They're a 7-point home dog.
Wow.
Now, it's Baltimore.
Disrespect.
It's New England. And you clearly have 2 different football teams. I mean, Baltimore, we've talked about them at full length. The Patriots, we've seen their struggles this year, minus Tom Brady. I'm going to go this way with this football game. I think Cam comes out tonight with something to prove. Okay? I think
against that defense.
Again, all I'm going to say is this: all the analogies that have been attached to Cam, Superman, in his career, and that's like,
this is old Cam versus new Cam.
Okay,
You know that, right?
Here's what I'm going to say about Cam tonight. I think from a player's perspective, his perspective, all the talk, Lamar Jackson can do this, can do that, can do this. Now, Cam Newton doesn't have that sort of speed for sure at this point in his career. Cam's just a big dude. His MO was he's 6'50", 250, 6'5", 6'6", 250 as a quarterback, and he will destroy you no matter who you are on that side of the football, one-on-one.
Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah, I mean,
ran his ass over.
So that was who Cam was, coming into, the first few years and certainly his career.
Yeah, but now Lamar is 215.
And can run like the wind.
Like a deer.
All the attention is Lamar. I think Cam's going to put this one in his pocket and go, you know what, guys? Let me show you how it used to be. And I just think from a attitude perspective, Cam has got to be lit for this game tonight.
His MVP season was just amazing.
He has to be lit tonight. He has to be thinking to himself, you know what? Plus, it's a primetime game. I mean, this is all lights on.
I'm a Cam fan, first of all. I'm a Cam Newton fan.
I'm a Cam realist. Okay.
Okay.
Now, who he was, what that team was, Ron Rivera, defense approach, They had talent on both sides of the ball. Cam had a phenomenal year that year. But again, when we talk about Lamar Jackson, what he brings to the table, Cam, similar guy outside of the fact that he was just more physical.
Yeah.
He never had a high completion percentage. People knocked his mechanics. They knocked his head. They knocked the fact that he couldn't read defenses. All these other things were obviously very important for a quarterback. You can't just get by on physical ability at that position. Case in point, Lamar Jackson. So I think tonight's game is going to be exceptional. I think the Patriots, if they have anything left, and that's the caveat here, you'll know early on who the Patriots are, at least at this point in the season. Now, the Patriots aren't a good football team. The Ravens should beat this team. But I just think you're going to see a performance from Cam tonight that's going to put him on the map again to some degree, give him a little short-term viability, perhaps at best. But, this tonight, for me, this should be a good football game tonight.
There will be pride at stake.
I think so, 100%.
There will be pride in holding court at home.
Yeah.
There will be pride in, young blood's coming to take my place.
Exactly. Now, if the rest of the team is behind him, that's my point about how you'll be able to see.
This just in.
1 o'clock inactive report.
Oh, we have 1 o'clock inactives.
He's just trying to make up for having breakfast in our shot, I think, is what he's trying to do right now, in all honesty. And by the way,
I'm not letting him get on the camera until he gets a haircut. He's a hippie.
How'd that work out for you last week with the receiver you played against me? I just wanted to throw that at you since we hadn't discussed this.
No, we didn't play Breeze, which was our fault.
Yeah, which was our fault. Yeah.
I told you.
We
We would have beat you.
So you set me up,
screwed up.
and then you didn't even take my advice to follow through.
We don't even deserve that belt over your right shoulder right
You
now.
guys
The
are
one over definitely
definitely roommates and friends because, and co-owners.
Why you're wearing a mask?
Yeah, what the hell are you doing with that thing?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anyway, so is it?
Who is that mask?
I'm
man?
like, are you kidding me? All right, go back in there. I'm sorry, I don't live here, but I'm pulling
Okay.
some street cred right now.
Okay, so before we go, I'm going to rattle off the inactives. You have something else you'd like to add?
You asked me a question earlier, fantasy perspective. Last
Yeah.
week I predicted DJ Chark was going to go crazy.
Oh, wow, okay.
So let me just throw one guy at you.
Who's your hot shot this week?
I like McLaurin this week. I think
Scary Terry McLaurin.
this is the week where, he has 2 or 3 of these a year that you're like, oh my God, Terry McLaurin. 8 catches, $140, 2 touchdown type game. Now,
Nice.
I'm not predicting the 2 touchdown game, but today's value play, I think he's like 6,600 on DraftKings. He's not really valuable. He's probably like 8th or 9th price guy, but I think he's worth it. I think he's a guy that you take a shot with today. Certainly if he's in your dailies, if he's in your season long, he's probably already in your lineup, but you can feel good about Mr. Terry McLaurin today because I think he has a big day.
And I like him as well. I've actually got him in one of my lineups, and I've got to go get to my lineup here, and I've got to make a few changes and a few adjustments and another lineup. But let me go ahead and give you your inactives and a little bit of advice here.
Cool.
I'm seeing doing my read.
Let's do it.
If only I can read the guru's handwriting.
He is a little loose with that.
Your
right
1 o'clock inactives. In the Philly game, Alshon Jeffrey will be making his first appearance this year.
Hey, welcome.
And inactive today will be Arcega-Whiteside. Another hyphen guy.
Yeah.
Pick a name. Giants game. Freeman will not be activated. He will not be playing. You might want to start Wayne Gallman at running back.
Smart play.
Maybe, possibly.
Smart play.
Jags and Packers. Chenault, the outstanding rookie, ain't going to make it. He's out. He's inactive.
Okay.
The Packers are missing their number 1 and 2 corners. The number 1 and number 2 cornerbacks.
Fortunately for them today, it's a windy football game in Green Bay.
Right. So the passing might be at a minimum, but you still might want to you might want to run a flyer on DJ Chark, your buddy, your pal.
Yeah, for sure.
You might want to run a flyer over there. For the Lions today, Kenny Golladay, of course, is out. The recommendation is Marvin Jones Jr.
Who had a touchdown last week?
Marvin Jones,
Yes.
Dr. Jones, and also Hawkinson, who is active. He was questionable, but he is scheduled to play. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, for the Redskins, missing their top 2 outside linebackers.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's why Hawkinson would be a good start.
Okay.
McCaffrey's out.
Again,
Davis in.
good play.
Those are 1 o'clocks. and the 4 o'clocks we'll get to. So, yeah, that's about it. Wraps up for us because I want to go get to my lineups as well. So, any last words?
Just glad we're back. Week 2 in the book of our second half.
What? We're not doing anymore. It's over.
I'm putting it on my site.
Okay, go put it on your site.
No.
By the way, if you want to catch some of that Guru's Guru info on Facebook at the Guru's Guru, GURU, go check him out. But not if you're part of any of the 3 leagues that he's participating in, because we won't give you any advice for those.
Right.
Right. So go ahead.
If I give him the advice, though, I expect him to also sit that advice if
Of
he's
course.
playing me. So
Of course.
I'd appreciate
Totally contrary.
that. Yeah. So, well, good luck today, everybody, in their leagues and their DFS, whatever they're involved in. Enjoy Week 10 in the NFL, and
I made money in DFS.
That's it.
I finished in the black last week.
Good.
A whole $14.
Whoa! Look at you.
Big money. Look at that. Watch
You
out.
are the man.
All right. Well, on behalf of myself and MAZZ, which, by the way, you can find him at MLB Joy Us. That would be on Instagram, right?
That's correct.
It's MLB Joy Us. Matthew Masaracchio.
Nice.
It's
a lot of letters. That would be a lot. That'd be tough to put on a jersey too.
Yeah.
It's the only reason why I didn't go
You'd
professional
have the
sports.
you'd have the M under one armpit and
Yeah.
the O under another armpit.
When I got my call to play professional baseball, I told them I'm just going to save you guys some time and just not go.
Just not go.
Yeah.
Or just put Mass.
Yeah, just the name was going to be too much for them to bear. So
Right.
yeah, became an electrician instead.
An electrician.
Yeah.
That's a good career move.
It was.
Yeah, it's more longevity. But of course, you can search us on the Gonzo Radio Network. We'll be back with episode 59 next week. You can also search us on Instagram, Gonzo Radio Sports Desk, Gonzo Radio Sports Desk on Facebook, and once again, www.gonzoradionetwork.com. I'm Big Daddy. That's the Mass. Say goodnight to the nice people.
Good night, nice people.
And thanks a lot for tuning in. And we will see you as soon as I can cue up the ender. We will see you again next week. Peace.